Good evening, everyone. Welcome to our very last live event this year. I am your host, and please just let me know if you can hear me loud and clear so I can make sure that all is working here. Okay. All right. Perfect. Thanks so much for that. And of course, I am really happy to see you all here. As we all know, it is one of the most busy time of the year. So even more, I am happy to see so many patients. And of course, there are here with us two special guests tonight. Dr. Juan Jose Sanchez Rosas, who is a gynecologist specializing in reproductive medicine. And with us, we have here also Dr. Caroline Alonso Muriel. She's an embryologist and egg donation program coordinator from Gutenberg Centro Clínica, which is located in Malaga, Spain. Okay, I believe you can see them already. And both of them will talk today on a very interesting topic. They will be explaining to you IVF for all the patients of advanced maternal age, so plus 38. And let me shortly explain how it will work, okay? So first, we'll start with the presentation, and that should take approximately 40 minutes. And then our Q&A session will follow right after. All of your questions will be answered one by one by the doctors, and you can type them all in the chat section. You can do it during the presentation, but of course you can also type them in during our Q&A session. Okay. And again, remember please that this live event is being recorded. It will be also published on our site tomorrow. You can see, I will show you the link just in a second. And I guess that would be it from me for now. And we can begin the presentation. Dr. Sanchez, are you ready to begin?
Thank you. Good night. Happy Christmas for all.
Perfect.
The advanced maternal age of women who undergo an IVF treatment is becoming more and more a problem. Last year, the 45% of IVF cycles with ONS and the 84% with donated eggs were performed in women over 38 years. This is due to the trend in the West society to delay of motherhood. Currently in Spain, women usually have their first baby at the age of 33 years, and more than 35% are from women with 35 years and older, and the 7 from women over 39. Good health of most of women over 40 and a global increase in the life expectancy make them feel they can get pregnant easily and without problems. But, and unfortunately, the eggs is a very important factor affecting women's chance on conceiving. Ovarian agents comes with a progressive and irreversible deterioration in both quantity and quality of the oocytes, and a dramatic increase in S with a normal number of chromosomes annually. Consequently, this results in a reduced fecundability and an increasing number of miscarriages by chromosome problems. Of course, most of these women will not be able to conceive naturally and will need an advanced reproduction treatment, often with a low chance of success. And moreover, the advancing maternal age also increases the risk of pregnancy complications, such as congenital malformation, Down syndrome, preeclampsia, diabetes, and other problems. Consider that this, and in spite of the natural desire of pregnancy, it's important to ask ourselves what we can expect from a fertility treatment for these women and think about the limits on performing them. According to the fertility Spanish law, the assisted reproduction techniques might only be carried out when there is a reasonable possibility of success and no serious risk to the woman's health on her possible offspring. In order to answer this difficult question and to assess the efficacy of reproductive techniques in this group of patients, it's necessary we should evaluate separately both main treatments, IVF with ONS and IVF with donor X, because the prognosis is absolutely different. With early donation treatment, the pregnancy success rate is high and doesn't depend on the ovarian age and quality. Therefore, the possible complication for the mother and the fetus related with pregnancy at 18 age is the only limitation in performing this treatment. There is a general agreement that establishes the age of 50 at the upper limit for a treatment. On the other hand, the IVF success rate depends dramatically on the age of the women. The Spanish National Health System establishes that the upper limit for IVF treatment in terms of age is 42 years. And that's the reason why lots of patients need to go to private fertility clinics. Our commitment is to carry out an individual and specific study of every case and provide the most complete and objective information about the prognosis in order to decide if the IVF treatment is a reasonable option or not. We base this decision basically in two factors: the age of the woman and her ovarian spouse. Female age is the most prominent factor that affects the success rate of an IVF treatment. This has a negative impact on all the aspects of reproductive performance, as collective fertilization and quality, clinical pregnancy, miscarriages, etc. And this is related almost entirely with the ovarian aging and the increases in the crisis incidence of aneuploidy eggs. Of course, cause the gradual decrease of the probability of live birth from the age of 38 years, becoming minimal from the 44. This against the gut results with an egg donor treatment. Another prognostic factor is the ovarian reserve. The term refers to the pool of follicles available to provide eggs at some points. In clinical reproduction, is used to determine the capacity of the ovary to supply eggs for fertilization and resulting in a successful pregnancy. Ovarian reserve declines gradually from woman born, faster from the age of 35 years and dramatically from the 40s, although may vary from person to person. Ovarian reserve, we have two different tests to determine the ovarian reserve: the ultrasound and hormonal blood markers. The ones with more sensitivity and specificity are the antral follicle count with transvaginal ultrasound in early follicular phase and the anti-mullerian hormone in blood. It's a hormone secreted by cells in developing follicles. Normal parameters are at least 5 antral follicles in each ovary and a level of anti-mullerian hormone in 1.2 nanogram milliliters. The ovarian reserve tests are a good predictive factors for ovarian repose to gonadotropin stimulation, a number of cholecysts. But different to the woman age, this is not so good predictive factors in terms of egg quality. Thus, their prognostic value regarding the success rate in IVF is less reliable. However, it is an important prognostic factor in terms of IVF effectiveness. A good ovarian reserve increases the probability to get more eggs and embryos to be selected for transfer or frozen, and decrease the number of ovarian stimulation cycles needed to achieve pregnancy. Therefore, this will increase the cumulative live birth rate. Considering this, we need to choose the best therapeutic option for every particular case. Age women is the main predictive factor to exclude patients for IVF. For women older than 44, our recommendation need be egg donation, regardless of the ovarian reserve. For women under this age, we'll provide a personalized recommendation according to an ovarian reserve conditions. Later, we will show you our statistics to justify this. On the other hand, a low ovarian reserve could be a decisive factor to exclude this group of women from IVF, but this is a controversial topic. Low ovarian reserve doesn't exclude the possibility to child pregnancy, but obviously worsen the prognosis in advanced age group. For this has to be seriously considered in order to decide between an IVF or egg donation treatment, especially for women over 42 years. Finally, an active participation of patients in this process is priority for us. Especially will be a recommendation, but the patient desire always must be considered. The optimum is take the decision together. If we finally decide to perform an IVF treatment, we need to consider how can we make to improve the success rate. We could focus on 3 levels: ovarian stimulation with gonadotropins, the improvement of egg quality before starting the treatment, and working on the laboratory procedures. In order to get a multiple follicular dividend, the ovarian stimulation is essential to optimize the IVF process. Frequently, most of the eggs obtained in one cycle are not valid for reproduction, so we will need several ones to increase the possibility to get at least one embryo up to implant. But what's the optimal number of oocytes for increasing live birth rate in IVF? Sankara studied more than 400,000 IVF cycles and establishes that this number in between 8 and 15 eggs. A number less than 8 will reduce live birth rate, while more than 15 will increase the risk of complication like ovarian hyperstimulation syndrome. According to that, and depending on the ovarian response, we can classify the patients in 4 groups. Poor respondent, if the number of eggs collected is 3 or less; suboptimal responder, between 4 and 9; normal respondent, 10 until 15; and high respondent if the number of eggs collected is more than 50. We can find women with more than 38 years in any group, but most of them will be included into the 2 first groups. Thus, the effectiveness on IVF will be reduced. It's important to try predicting the ovarian response, to include them in the correct group and choose the best treatment. This is what we know, individualization of treatment. And how can we make this? When there is a previous stimulation cycle, we can get this prediction through the study of the results obtained, and it's a very good predictive factor. Secondly, we will use biomarkers such as antral follicle count, anti-mullerian hormone, age, and body mass index. A high body mass index is a very important negative factor in the ovarian response. Antral follicular count and anti-mullerian hormone are the most sensitive to predict the ovarian response. And what do we want to get in an ovarian stimulation treatment? Several things. First, effectiveness. We want to achieve the optimal number of eggs for each pattern, but also security. We want to minimize the risk of ovarian hyperstimulation syndrome. Comfort. Reduce the treatment time and the pathological stress. Efficiency. Avoid unnecessary cuts. And flexibility. But the question is, if it's possible to achieve all this, because we know that the stimulation with gonadal pins can cause some problems, especially with a high response. First, can alter the endometrial receptivity. A stimulation with gonadal pins increase levels of estradiols and the risk of premature progesterone rise, with decreasing dramatically the implantation success rate. Secondly, can cause the most important complication in IVF, ovarian hyperstimulation syndrome. And finally, a controversial study associated the stimulation with gonadal pins with a bigger number of aneuploidy embryos. This causes a strong impact, but currently we know that is not true. All this led, in the first decade of this century, to a change in trend from the stimulation with high doses of gonadal pins to a mild stimulation using lower doses to achieve less than 8x, with the purpose of maintaining a good pregnancy rate and reduce the negative impact on the endometrium and risks of hyperstimulation. But currently, the trends has changing again. This is due to several advances. Overall, the most important progress in IVF in this century occurred, the vitrification of eggs and embryos. The ultra-fast freeze is an optimal cryopreservation method, gives excellent survival rates of frozen embryos, more than 90%, and same live birth rates comparing with the transfer of fresh embryos. Because of this, cumulative live birth rate that includes fresh and frozen embryo transfer obtained in the same stimulation cycle is considered a key indicator to assess the success of IVF. These excellent outcomes have allowed to create a strategy of freeze and defer embryo transfer. It's used when the ovarian hyperstimulation syndrome risk is too high or her endometrial conditions are not right for implantation. In other words, allows to achieve a high repose, avoiding its problems. This is the reason why a new change occurred. Nowadays, the tendency in women of advanced maternal age is to get as many oocytes as possible. It's a great improvement for this group because increase the cumulative live birth rate, reduce the number of stimulation cycles and the time necessary to achieve a pregnancy, perform a pre-implantation genetic screening, and finally, has increased the single embryo transfer. However, it's important to design a personalized stimulation protocol for each ovarian response group. For the normal responder groups, we consider as valid both stimulation protocol, short protocol with antagonists, and the agonist-long protocol, even if the first one is usually preferred. We can use both recombinant and urinary gonadal pins at doses of 150 until 300 units per day. The use of LH is not strictly necessary, but may be convenient. An ACG is usually used to trigger the final oocyte maturation, but it can be replaced by an agonist bolus if we plan to perform a deferred embryo transfer. In the high responders, the strategy of freeze and deferred embryo transfer is the most safe and probably most efficient. For this, the election of protocol needs to be antagonist and triggering with agonist bolus. This strategy avoids both early and late onset ovarian hyperstimulation syndrome. The doses of gonadal pins recommended are 150 or 225. These doses may seem high for high responder, but this group deserves a special consideration due to the age impact on the ovarian response and egg quality. Finally, the poor and suboptimal responder is the most difficult to handle and the one with the worst prognosis. Poor ovarian response is defined by Bologna criteria. It's necessary at least 2 or 3 as must be present. Advancing maternal age or any other risk factor for poor ovarian response. A previous poor ovarian response with a conventional stimulation protocol and of a normal ovarian reserve test. The Bologna criteria has been generally accepted, but with criticisms, because it includes a very heterogeneous group of patients with different conditions and prognosis. Poor ovarian reserve response have a very different prognosis in advanced age than in young women. Because of this, a new proposal emerged, the Poseidon classification. According to Poseidon criteria, the patients are classified in 2 groups to achieve greater homogeneity and individualization of the treatment. In addition to the age and ovarian reserve factors, is also considered the patient's sensitivity to gonadotropins, and it involves a new group, the suboptimal responder. Women with maternal advanced age are included in group 2 and 4. In the group 2, the patients over 35 with a normal ovarian reserve and an expected low or suboptimal response to the stimulation. The group 4 includes patients over 35 with low ovarian reserve parameters. Usually, a short protocol with antagonists is recommended, but a short protocol with agonists could be a good alternative. The doses of gonadotropins between 225 and 300 units per day. Doses greater than 300 don't seem to increase the response. The use of LH is recommended in this group, since it improves the follicular recruitment and development. In group 2 of Poseidon, we must consider that a significant improvement is possible in a following cycle. The low response could be related to FCH receptor polymorphisms or to less reactive variants of LH. They could benefit from greater doses of gonadotropins 300, a low organ stimulation of less than 10 days, and LH effect. But the group 4 is the real problem. It's the one with the worst prognosis. And in contrast, group 2 doesn't benefit to increase the doses in a new cycle because the follicle count is very reduced. However, we must try to get the best response as possible. Several strategies have been proposed to achieve an improvement, such as waiting for the right cycle, adjuvant treatment to improve the response to gonadotropins, and a special stimulation protocol. It's known that the antral follicle count can vary significantly in every menstrual cycle. Waiting until to see a greater number of follicles to start stimulation could produce a better response. General use of androgens such as testosterone or the androgen is questioned, since specialising improves the number of eggs but not the pregnancy success rate. The use of growth hormone is probably not recommended in the poor ovarian response. Alternatives to the conventional stimulation have also been proposed, trying to increase the efficiency of the treatment. The male stimulation and the use of letrozole or clomiphene is an effective alternative when there is a poor reserve, reducing the economic costs. And today, We know that the follicle recruitment is possible at any time during the menstrual cycle. Therefore, we can start stimulation at any time, as well as in the follicular or luteal phase during a same cycle. This is called random stimulation. Or we can make a double stimulation during the two phases at same cycle. This will give greater flexibility and reduce time to achieve the best response as possible. The results seems encouraging, but a good cost-benefit analysis is necessary. Okay, we have seen that ovarian stimulation offers more eggs to inseminate, but doesn't improve its quality. Could we make something to improve it? It's known that ovarian egging causes an irreversible loss of both quantity and quality of the eggs and its ability to develop and euploid the embryo. But this natural process can be accelerated or delayed by different factors. One of the most important is the oxidative stress that can produce a severe damage in ovarian reserve. This problem is caused by an excess of free oxidant radicals or defect of antioxidant factors and is related to bad lifestyle habits. Because this, several recommendations have been proposed to limit this negative impact. A healthy nutrition with food rich in antioxidants, such as fruit, vegetables, and practice exercise is very important. Furthermore, prevent obesity, a negative factor on an ovarian response, eggs and embryo quality, and endometrial receptivity. Quitting smoking and avoid alcohol is another important recommendation. The general use of antioxidant supplements in advanced age is questioned. Several supplements have been proposed, like melatonin, vitamin D and E, but all this, the coenzyme Q10 seems the most interesting. Coenzyme Q10 has not only a strong antioxidant effect, could increase the production of energy for mitochondria. And this is very important for the meiosis. The meiosis process requires a lot of energy than the mitochondria of all S can give. This will explain the bigger number of chromosomal mistakes in the meiosis and increases of aneuploidy eggs in advanced age women. There are several experimental lines of investigation to improve the quality eggs, like mitochondrial transfer during exit to apport more energy to the eggs. The origin of the mitochondria can be from own women, autologous, or from donation eggs, heterologous. Until now, the autologous transfer outcomes have been disappointing, and the heterologous transfer is a very ethical controversial topic. These embryos will have genetic load from 3 different persons. Another investigation line is the autologous stem cell ovarian transplantation, with the objective to stimulate the production of new eggs. This is what we know, the body rejuvenation, but the results are very disappointing also. Currently, we haven't any effective experimental treatment to improve the quality or produce new healthy eggs. Follow the recommendation, respect healthy habits, and maybe coenzyme Q10 supplements is the most appropriate option.
Well, I want to present you our results, our statistics. These are the results from 2016 to 2018. As you can see in the graph on the left, we have a 70% of pregnancy per patient in patients under 30 years old, and this rate decreases to 39% in patients over 30 years. The percent of miscarriage in pink is 16%, and this rate increases to 30% in patients over 30 years old. I have broken down these results into different age groups. As you can see, in the group of 40 years old, the pregnancy per patient is still 45%, but as the maternal age increases, we can see how it decreases. As the doctor said before, the percent of miscarriage is 12% in the first group, 39-40 years, but we can see as how it increased to 31, even to 57% in patients 43-44. As you can see in the graph, patients over 45 is even less than 1%. Here are some of the techniques we can offer to our patients, especially to those over 30 years old. We have the extended culture up to the blastocyst stage, time-lapse system, and the PGTA. The extended blastocyst culture, there is a trend now towards embryos being transferred on day 5, which has an improvement of in vitro embryo selection, as we have more information day per day of the embryos. We can discard on day 5 the embryos that on day 3 they were of good quality, but they couldn't reach the stage of blastocyst. We are in a better position of doing a single embryo transfer, so we reduce the multiple pregnancy. As the doctor said, we should do it. We can improve the embryo endometrial synchronicity transferring on day 5 or 6, and in the latest studios have shown there is a reduced uterine contractility on day 5-7. Time-lapse system, embryos in culture are assessed by morphological grading so we can be able to predict the implantation potential. Morphological evaluation is typically performed at static points, which involves the physical removal from of the embryos from the incubator, so they can be checked under the microscope. For the time lapse, we use this incubator shown in this slide. It has the same conditions as the other incubators of CO2, oxygen, and temperature, but the difference is that this one has a camera inside that takes pictures every 15 minutes. So we can have a dynamic observation of embryo development instead of a statistic. This embryoscope is connected to a computer, and so the embryologist can see anytime how the embryo is developing, and we can select the blastocyst with a new score system based in embryo morphokinetics, not just the morphology. And as we don't have to remove the embryos from the embryoscope, we have an uninterrupted culture environment. The proven clinical benefits of time-lapse are a reduced pregnancy loss, improved implantation rate, and shorter time of pregnancy. As the doctor said, there is an increased chromosomal aneuploidy with the advanced maternal age, the prevalence of aneuploidies in human blastocysts obtained in vitro is between 30, that's the group of 30, 31 years old, up to 85% in patients 44, 45 years old. These chromosomal aneuploidies are related with lower fertilization rates, poorer embryo development, and a decreased implantation and pregnancy potential. What is the PGTA test? It's a pre-implantational genetic testing of embryos produced in vitro treatment. It consists in biopsying the embryo or day 3 or day 5. We send this biopsy to a genetic laboratory, and so they can study the embryo chromosomally, and they will send us a genetic report so we can transfer a healthy embryo. I want to say that we send the biopsy to the genetic laboratory, but the embryo stays here in the laboratory. If it's on day 3, we can transfer the embryo 2 days after, but the trend now in almost all the clinics is towards biopsying on day 5. In that case, as we don't have the result on the same day and we have to wait 1 or 2 days, we always have to freeze the embryo at the same time we are biopsying the blastocysts. We take the cells and right away we freeze the blastocysts. As the doctor said, the percent of surviving is very near the 100%, and the percent of pregnancy are equal with fresh or frozen embryo transfer, so we don't have to have any fear about this. As I said, there's a trend now, and almost everyone is biopsying on day 5. And this is because biopsying on the blastocyst stage, we can biopsy more cells, so we have more DNA, so we have fewer cases with no results. We have fewer mosaics. We have reduced impact of embryo biopsy. We have less embryos to process. As I said before, we discard embryos that they don't reach to the blastocyst stage. And this technique facilitates single embryo transfer. Why is important to do the PGT test? Well, because not just with the morphology of the blastocyst or with the time lapse, we can be sure that the blastocysts are gonna be chromosomally normal. Here I present in this graph with a blastocyst with a very, very, very good quality, excellent quality. Just the 56% are euploid, and good ones, the 39.1% will be euploid. The benefits of using PGTA are reduced miscarriage rates, higher pregnancy rates per transfer, fewer cycles of IVF treatment needed, greater chance of having a healthy child, fewer wasted transfer, and optional single embryo transfer. As final conclusions, I would like to say that we can't forget that all our goal has to be a healthy baby at home. I want to thank you all for listening to us, and I want to thank Fertility Clinic Abroad for giving us the opportunity to be here with you today. Bye.
And thank you so much for this fantastic presentation, and of course for sharing your experience, of course knowledge with us. And as you can already see, we have some questions ready. So let's get to it, and let's start our Q&A session. And here's the first question. Here it is. I am 39 years old. My AMH is 15.5, FSH 8.9. AFC was 7-8 on each ovary. Had 3 rounds of IUI and 1 round of IVF ICSI. 7 mature eggs collected, only 1 fertilized, and it was abnormal by day 2. And the second part to that is I am concerned my next round will have the same result. Do you have any advice? And let me show you the first one.
Yes. Okay. Since the Cathy belong to the group 2 of Poseidon, okay, have not excellent parameters of ovarian reserve, but no to poor. It's a case that we can consider that improve response is possible in a new cycle. Okay, maybe increase the doses, advent LEH effect, waiting to see in the scan the greater X as possible, but it's a case that to repeat a cycle is worthy, and we can think about improvement the response. Okay. Yes.
Thank you for the question as well as the answer. And let's move on to the next question here. Are there any benefits in mild stimulation to get better quality eggs in older women?
Really, I never had seen that a mild stimulation increased the quality eggs. It's true that is the cohort of follicles. It's poor. We can optimize the stimulation and avoid excessive cost. But actually, the general use of male stimulation, in my opinion, have no sense. The vitrification process is an excellent strategy to achieve, to avoid risks and achieve the benefits of the high response to get more embryos to be solid or make PGS. Male stimulation have a paper in a poor ovarian response, but I don't think that increase the quality of the eggs.
And thank you again for the question and the answer to that one as well. And we have another question coming here. It's a longer one. When you are discussing group 2 versus group 4, does it mean only antral follicle count or how many mature eggs? I had one cycle with 8 oocytes retrieved, 150 menopause, 300 gonal F, but 4 months later did 150 and only got 3 oocytes. However, in both cycles, only 3 oocytes were mature and able to have ICSI.
Okay, the mature rate is a very difficult question because can influence several factors. Okay, maybe the timing of triggering, the size of the follicles in the moment the recruitment is difficult to answer this question because several factors influence. But in the beginning, when we talk about good, so optimal, poor responder, we talk about you can increase the follicle recruitment and development, but to get more mature eggs is no clear. Maybe use the LH effect, increase the number of days of stimulation, delayed a little bit the trigrade can help to increase the number with good mature.
For the answer, and of course remember that if you wish, you can always send us more details, and we can forward this to the doctors, and they will be able to get back to you. Okay, and now let's have a look at the next question. What dose of coenzyme Q10 is recommended?
Okay, this question is questioned. Usually, the normal supplements are, to use daily is around 30, 60 milligrams. Okay, but the papers respect the effect of coenzyme Q10 talk doses higher, between 100 and 300. Since that if we can get a real good effect respect improving the quality X, doses need to be higher. I have read English paper respect neurological problems like Parkinson, and it's used doses like 1,200 milligrams. Okay, but for normal supplements daily, around 30, 60 milligrams is the normal doses.
Thank you again. All right, perfect. So much. And there is another one for you right here. What are the risks of not using a mosaic embryo after PGTA, which otherwise could be viable?
A ver, ¿cuál es el riesgo?
Which otherwise could be a
un
falso, a positive false.
No tengo ni idea. El riesgo de... I can ask, okay, my colleague that he is in charge of PGTA, okay, and we can email without any problem about the mosaics, okay? He will answer this question without any problem.
Yeah, really, it's a very controversial question, okay?
Yes.
Because it's we have days when we made the PGD in day 3 are different to make the PGD actually in blastocysts. Remember, report about 10%, 50%, but probably when the biopsy in blastocysts, this rate is
decreases a lot, and there's a lot of controversy because some of them, they say they have to transfer those embryos, some not. Some genetic laboratories, they will tell you that embryo as a viable. Other genetic laboratories will tell you not to transfer. So I think it's finally the decision of the genetic laboratory who will tell you the results, or they can recommend, but it's a very, very controversial answer.
All right. Thank you so much as well. And again, let me remind you, we can always forward the question right to the doctors. They can forward this again, and they will get back to you. Okay. All right. Let's move on to the next question. I'm 40 years old. I have AFC of 7 last year, but this year there was no egg in one ovary and they couldn't really see the second ovary because of fibroids. What can I do because I really want to use my own eggs? Can ovarian rejuvenation help, or can I do egg banking monthly?
Or try an IVF cycle.
Yes, that's the egg banking, freezing, cumulative freezing.
Egg banking, yes. Money. Okay. My first recommendation is try to get a pregnancy as possible. But if it's not an option in this moment, freeze the eggs, maybe it can be a good option for you. Okay, 40 years is not obviously an optimal age, but it's an age where a low ovarian reserve don't means that a pregnant is not possible. Okay, but it's true that you have not a long time to try to get a pregnancy or freeze eggs. The ovarian rejuvenation process actually is an experimental treatment, and the effectivity of the treatment is very, very, very poor in this moment.
All right, perfect. Thanks so much for that question as well, and letting us know what do you think about this as well. Yes, and now we have a next question here, so let's have a look. Hi, I am a 40-year-old woman who has just experienced my fifth miscarriage. I suffer with unexplained subfertility and unexplained recurrent miscarriage. Each pregnancy ends around 7th week. NK cell testing done. Various autoimmune issues tests done. No concerning result in my hysteroscopy. Can you suggest any further issues that I could be tested for, which may be causing the miscarriages?
Okay. First, when a woman has 40 years old, we cannot talk about unexplained fertility and unexplained recurring miscarriages, because the risk of chromosome miscarriages is too high with 40 years. Respect the immunological treatment, really, I don't believe so much in this. I think that are dangerous. Really have not experience with this, but the most of cases are not effective. Maybe I can recommend you an IVF with PGS to obtain more information respect the chromosome of your embryos. And a probably option is extonation. Where when we talk about extonation, not only increase the pregnancy rates, decrease until 30–40% the miscarriage rate. But in this case, the chromosomes problems, like reason to the miscarriage, is a high possibility.
So much again for that rather complicated question as well, and of course for your expertise. We have another question coming right here. What about the issue with false positives in PGTA testing? It is estimated that women have been throwing away embryos for false positives due to undetected mosaicism in 20–30% of those that test positive.
They're talking about again the mosaicism. Once again, our genetic laboratory tells us
I think it's too high.
Yes, it's really too high.
It's high.
There is another part to this question, okay? So let's have a look. And of course, as I've mentioned, please just, you can definitely get back to us and we will forward this to the doctor, yeah? So they will be able to assist for sure. And this is the second part of the question. Regarding the above false positive question, not necessarily false positives, but embryos that could have self-corrected after transfer through selected apoptosis.
Yeah, this is not a question. It's just talking about the last question that was again. I really don't think that percent that's real.
Right.
And once again, it's very controversial. And of course, that's why some, as I said, some of them, they tell you can transfer them because they can self-correct. their cells. So the laboratory can tell you what they have found, but then the patient can decide. They can transfer that embryo and then can do the prenatal test too. So it's very, 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 I think, optional, and the patient, and depending on the clinic you're working with, the laboratory you are working, because some laboratories will tell you, will report you the mosaics, but some of them, and very good genetic laboratories, they won't even tell you the ones that they have mosaics. They will tell you the one that they are healthy chromosomally Turkey or abnormal chromosomally.
Yes.
Much okay for those questions still, and of course for your honest opinion as well. Yes. And there is another question right here. What is your opinion on tests like ERA tests? I guess EMMAALIES. Sorry, I'm not sure. In older women, as well as use of intralipids, Clexane, aspirin.
Okay, imagine that this question is referred respect the implantation failure. Okay, yes, the tests of endometrial receptivity, like ERA, can help us in implantation failure. Okay, overall, if we seen a special shape of the uterine cavity, we know that the implantation failure can be displaced, and maybe this test can be interesting in the implantation failure. Respect intralipids and immunoglobulins, I repeat you, I'm not experienced, but I'm not interested in this topic. Okay, and we know that there is a very, very reduced number of cases that can benefit this, and the general use, in my opinion, is not a good option. Yeah. Aspirin, a Clexane, okay, is a treatment that maybe can use if we have one or two factors in the coagulation studies with not normal parameters, but maybe we have use not usually indication deepening, okay, but it's something that can be contemplated in the implantation failure. But in my opinion, of all these possibilities, the test of endometrial resistivity probably is the best option.
And thank you again. All right, perfect. Thanks so much. There are two questions left, but of course, just this is like the final call. So if you have any questions, just go ahead and type them all in. Okay. And now let's have a look at the next question. Do you see any benefit to using a calcium culture in the lab before fertilization, ICSI attempts, when using donor sperm? Does it increase fertilization rates?
Okay. We don't use the calcium culture. We have read many studies, and there are no conclusive studies in benefiting the patient with the calcium culture. It's not a technique very used, at least here in Spain.
Thanks so for that. And just let me have a look at the next question for you. What is your opinion on what is the maximum number of times an egg donor should be allowed to donate from a healthy point of view regarding the donor and the resulting eggs?
Okay, here the law doesn't say a maximum number of times an egg donor should be allowed to donate. They say the number of positive results. But the Spanish Society of Fertility agreed that five times could be okay, but it's not the maximum. If the egg donor could want more, if she wants, she could. In our clinic, it is true that no more than 5, even if she has good results, or even we don't do it, but
my opinion, between 8 and 10 eggs is a good number of eggs.
No, the maximum number the egg donor can donate.
Yeah, can donate.
Okay? Yes.
All right. Thank you. Thank you so much. And let me have a look. I believe that is the last question, at least for now. So you can go ahead and type them all in. And now let's move on to the next one.
Yeah.
And what is the evidence, your opinion on DNA fragmentation on subsets in IVF? Can ICSI, IMSI help with this?
Yes, I've done many studies with DNA fragmentation. I think it's important, of course. We do DNA fragmentation tests here in the clinic. We do the techniques with DNA fragmentation, depending on the rate the patient has. Then we will recommend to do directly an ICSI. And if depending on the rate of DNA fragmentation, and if it's just one strand or double strand, even in some cases we have to recommend a donor sperm. And ICSI, of course, can improve, but not just ICSI. Sometimes we need some techniques like the annexin 5, or what we are using now, the fertile chip. And we have done studies already, and we have an improvement in rates of pregnancy with these techniques. The IMSI, we haven't done IMSI, but as the calcium culture is very controversial, and not conclusive studies ever shown that there is an increase in the percent of pregnancy using this technique.
And fantastic. Thank you again for that. And there is one more, comment here about the previous question. I meant, does repeated IVF cycles affect the health of the donor and the health of the eggs if she keeps donating? From the previous question, yes?
Okay, one second, please.
Sure.
Le está preguntando que si va a afectar a su salud, si dona muchas veces, o que si le va a donar a la salud de ella y a la salud de sus óvulos. Puedo decir rotundamente no. Yeah, the answer is no. It's not going to affect in her health or the health of her own eggs. Of course, what we always say, the risk of donating is, there's always a risk, but it's the same risk that when you do it for your first time.
Yes.
That's it.
Several stimulation ovary don't decrease your number of facts, your pool of follicles. Okay, but true that make a such number of facts have no sense, but 5, 6 stimulation cycle have not a negative impact in your health or in your fertility.
All right. Thank you again for clarifying that for us as well. And I do see another question. Okay, so let's have a look. Okay, right here. How does egg retrieval affect thyroid? If there is an elevated thyroid after retrieval, will it stay that way forever?
I then imagine that when she talked about elevated thyroid, means of high levels of TCH. Okay, but because high levels of TCH can means a not good function of the thyroid, and in this case is very important use levothyroxine to increase the chance of pregnancy and reduce the risk of abortion. But maybe it's true that there is women that after this stimulation with gonadotropins can reduce changes in the thyroid hormones levels because are produced in the same time, an hypophysis.
Okay.
But control of thyroid is a very important question before to make a fertility treatment. Okay, be sure that it has not a high function, and a poor function.
Yes, and Melissa is also writing about the doctor was to start with with medication. So yes, that's what he's saying, that to have very controlled the thyroid before doing any stimulation. Yes.
All right, and here's some more comments. Just give me. Okay. There is another comment here. Not doing more stems, right? Okay. Let me see. Yes, there's another part. So had to give up on my eggs. All right. Okay, and let me just wait for a minute. I do see someone is typing, so just let me see if there are any questions. And of course, as I mentioned, we will be finishing. However, I just definitely want to make sure. Okay, those are definitely some shout outs. So let's have a look. Okay, as you can see. Thank you very much. And the doctors, of course. And again, another shout out. So Dr. Alonso, Dr. Sanchez. All right. So I guess that would be it for today. We have more shout outs here. So happy to hear your comments. That's always nice for us, for sure, to hear it. Thanks very much. This was very interesting. Good to know. And I am in group 2. Hadn't heard those classifications before. All right, perfect. Thanks. That's good to hear them. All right. And okay, I guess that would be it, right? Thank you all for being with us today, for all of your questions, very detailed sometimes, and thank you for that. We like it. And of course, thank you for also joining us time and time again. And even though it is actually our last webinar this year, please stay tuned, as there will be more, plenty more to come, next year. And of course, I would like to thank Dr. Sanchez, Dr. Alonso, for being with us today, for your expertise, for your time, for sure. So muchas gracias. I am sorry, I don't know many words, but I am hoping that we can do it again. So who knows, maybe I'll learn more. Thanks so much for being with us. And would you like to add anything else?
No, happy Christmas to you and to everyone.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year, and please feel free to email us, okay, if more questions, or you didn't understand something we said and you want to know more, always feel free, okay, to call us, to email us.
Perfect. Thank you so much. And of course, from my part, I wish you all Merry Christmas. And I really hope you will have amazing Christmas time. And of course, a great next year. Your dreams will come true. And again, I hope to see you again here very, very soon. And that will be it for today. So, yeah, Merry Christmas. Have a good night. And once again, thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye bye.
Bye.